The world now at 4. I am Aidnan Lubem. First, let's look at the headlines. On the headlines, Nigeria set for declaration on global financing for media, information and literacy. Away from the shores of Nigeria, Tanzania firefighters battle blaze on Mount Kilimanjaro. On the world stage, Sunak wins race to become UK's new Prime Minister. While on sports, Middlesbrough named Carrick new boss. And now the news in detail. As the world converged for a week to celebrate this year's Global Media and Information Literacy Week, Nigeria's Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, while briefing the press at a meeting, said, welcomed their participants to the country and identified the happenings of the conference theme while highlighting some challenges faced by the world. Also speaking, the Assistant Director General, Communication and Information, UNESCO, Taufik Jalasi, gave a brief background to issues of global media and information literacy.
We don't want the new digital pipeline for the content, for the media and information. We don't want it to be harmful to societies and to individuals. Let me repeat, 73% of women journalists are subject to online harassment, and 20% of them end up being physically attacked. What starts online moves to the physical world. So I gave you a few statistics to say we cannot watch the world passing by passively. We have to take action. We have to do it now.
At the end of the week-long event, there's expected to be an adoption of the Abuja Declaration on Global Financing for Media and Information Literacy. The theme of this year's event is Nurturing Trust, a Media and Information Literacy Imperative. President Muhammadu Buhari, South Korea, for the maiden edition of the World Bao Summit 2022. The president, who touched down at the international airport in the early hours of Monday, was received by Nigeria's ambassador to South Korea, Ali Magashi, alongside some Nigerian officials. Away from that particular story now to others, we're still in the news. Department of State Services has urged Nigerians to stay alert and assist security agencies with information on suspicious criminals in their neighborhoods. The DSS Public Relations Officer, Department of State Services National Headquarters, Peter Afunanya, in a statement urged Nigerians to remain calm, adding that necessary actions have been taken to prevent such an attack from happening. This is coming after the United States of America Embassy in Nigeria issued an advisory to its citizens on terrorist plans to carry out attacks in some parts of the country. We now move to other parts of Africa after this break. The Economic Community of West African States has said Guinea's ruling junta has agreed to hand over power to civilians after 2 years, giving up under threat of imminent sanctions to run the country for 3 years. The document published on social networks by the junta said experts of ECOWAS and Guinea have jointly developed a consolidated calendar on the transition spread for over 24 months. The document, however, did not specify when this 24-month period begins. Reports show that Colonel Mamadi Damboya has pledged to hand over to civilians after elections. The junta had previously stated its intention to govern for 3 years, while it organizes credible elections and carries out important reforms necessary for what it calls a refoundation of the Guinean state. ECOWAS said such a delay was unacceptable, and on September 22, the leaders of the member states meeting at a summit in New York without Guinea had given the authorities 1 month to present a reasonable and acceptable timetable, failing which more severe sanctions than those already imposed on the country would be applied. More than 300 people have been mobilized to tackle a blaze on the slopes of Tanzania's famous Mount Kilimanjaro. According to reports, the fire was burning near the Camp Karenga site used by climbers ascending the mountain at about 4,000 meters altitude on the south side of the mountain. Mount Kilimanjaro, situated in the northeast of the country, is Africa's highest summit at 5,895 meters, that is 19,340 feet. Officials have not yet established how the fire started, but it comes exactly 2 years after another blaze, which raged for a week in October 2020 across 95 square kilometers, that is 37 square meters. We now move to other parts of the world after this break. Don't go away. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now to news from other parts of the world. British politician Rishi Sunak has been elected Conservative leader and will become the next Prime Minister after rival Penny Mordaunt failed to secure the necessary 100 nominations from her fellow members of Parliament. Just weeks after failing in the first attempt to lead the ruling Tories, Sunak could cap a stunning reversal in fortunes by winning the leadership today following ex-Premier Johnston's unexpected move late Sunday. The contest, triggered by outgoing leader Liz Truss' resignation on Thursday, requires candidates to secure the support of at least 100 Conservative members of Parliament. Sunak had crossed that threshold by Friday night ahead of declaring his candidacy on Sunday and amassing nearly 150 public nominations from Tory lawmakers. Johnson's withdrawal from the race before he had formally announced his candidacy left cabinet member Penny Mordaunt as the only other declared contender. Already flooded towns in eastern Australia were on high alert today after a weekend of heavy rainfall, with authorities warning that a wild weather system could persist until later this week and trigger new gusts from the banks. Bureau of Meteorology forecaster Dan Naramore said the flood warnings are incredible. Also speaking, Moray Mayor Mark Johnson said there will be farmers who will get crops, but there will be many, while some will get nothing this year. The federal government said it would set aside 577 million Australian dollars, that is 370 million US dollars, to speed up the processing of relief payments a day before the release of the national budget. The Japanese minister has resigned today following scrutiny over his links to a religious sect that is under pressure over ties with top politicians after the assassination of former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Minister for Economic Revitalization Daishiro Yamagiwa said his conduct had caused trouble for the government but did not name the Unification Church. Yamagiwa has also been under fire in Parliament following local media reports about his alleged ties to the church, partly because he appeared in a group photo in 2019 with Hak Jan Han, Moon's wife. The politician had confirmed it was him in the image, but said in Parliament on Monday today that his memory about the photo with her is unclear. He also previously disclosed that he joined an event organized by the church in 2018. On business news, the National Bureau of Statistics has stated that air transportation rose by 96.87% in 1 year. In its report titled Transport Fare Watch September 2022, the Bureau noted that the average fare paid by air passengers for specified routes single journey increased by 96.87% from 36,922.97 kobo in September 2021 on a year-on-year basis. According to the statistics body, on a month-on-month basis, it increased by 11.76% from 65,041.89 naira in August 2022 to 72,690.54 naira in September 2022. Data from the report indicated that the average fare paid by commuters for bus journeys within the city per drop increases by 2.19% on a month-on-month from 602.48 naira in August 2022 to 615.69 naira in September 2022. It also revealed that on a year-on basis, the average fare paid by commuters for bus journeys within the city per drop rose by 41.42% from 435.36 in September to 615.69 naira in September 2022. Trade union close to the main Moroccan Islamic Party on Sunday mobilized several hundred supporters in the capital to protest against the high cost of living. The rally outside Parliament and witnessed by journalists came after several protests already this week in Rabat and other Moroccan cities. It was organized by the country's main trade union, the UNTM, which is close to the Justice and Development Party, that is PJD. Consumer price inflation was 8.3% year-on-year in September due to large parts to surging food prices, which went up to 14.7%. Food prices have also risen sharply, making the city a particular target of anger, given that the Bellonier is a local oil distribution baron. Still on business news, financial markets have reacted calmly as it emerged that Rishi Sunak is set to become the U.S. next Prime Minister. The pound was broadly unchanged against the dollar on Monday afternoon, and government borrowing costs stayed lower after Commons leader Penny Mordaunt dropped out of the leadership race. Earlier in the day, the pound had won $4 against the dollar before falling back. Former Prime Minister Boris Johnson dropped out of the contest on Sunday. Last month, sterling plumped to a record low against the dollar, and government borrowing cost rose sharply in the aftermath of outgoing Prime Minister Liz Truss's mini budget. Still to come on World Now at 4 is Sport News. Stay with us.
Welcome to Sport News on World Now at 4. I am Memo Cynthia Asoya. Now to sports. Flamingos head coach Bankole Oluwokiri says getting to the semi-final of the Under-17 Women's World Cup is enough and has assured Nigerians the technical crew is working hard to ensure that the Flamingos get to the final. The team captain Alvin Dazusu and Omamuso Edafe, who converted the penalty that fired the Flamingos to the last four, has also assured Nigerians that Flamingos will go all out against Colombia in their semi-final clash. Flamingos face Colombia in the semis on Wednesday following the South Americans' 3-0 win over Tanzania in the quarterfinals on Saturday. Olympic Eagles are back in Ibadan to continue their preparations for the Under-23 AFCON qualifiers after picking up a draw in the first leg of their second qualifying round game against Tanzania in Dar es Salaam. Captain Success Mark Anjola put the 2015 Under-23 AFCON champions in front from the penalty spot in the 29th minute before the host restored parity also from the penalty spot in the 81st minute. Head coach Salisu Yusuf is setting his sights on victory in the second leg following what he calls an improved performance by his side in Dar es Salaam. The second leg of the second round holds October 29th at the Lekon Salami Stadium, Ibadan. Winners between Nigeria and Tanzania will face the winners between Uganda and Guinea. Now to the international side, where championship strugglers Middlesbrough have appointed former Manchester United and England midfielder Michael Carrick as their head coach. The 41-year-old has been out of the game since leaving Old Trafford after a 3-game stint as temporary boss after Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's dismissal. Borough has been without a permanent manager since Chris Wilder was sacked with Leo Perovic in interim charge. Carrick's first game will be at Preston in the Championship on Saturday. He will be assisted by Jonathan Woodgate. The former Borough player returns to the Riverside, having been the manager from June 2019 to June 2020. The club has also confirmed that Perovic will now take up a role as the club head of player pathway and development. Sporting Lisbon boss Ruben Amorim has declared interest to succeed Steven Gerrard as Aston Villa manager. Gerrard was sacked on Thursday after less than a year in charge following a 3-0 defeat by Fulham. Amorim, who is 37, has a reported £10 million release clause at the Portuguese club, and it's understood Villa has held talks with his representatives. Villa, however, has other contenders despite the strong interest in the former Portugal midfielder. Amorim has emerged as one of the most highly rated young coaches in Europe after his work with Sporting Villa, stated the post-Gerrard era under caretaker Aaron Danks with a 4-0 home win against Brentford that left them 14th in the Premier League. And that's your sport news on World Now at 4. Back to Aina Luben for the rest of the news. I am Memo Cynthia Asoya.
Thank you, Memo Asoya, for the sports update. And now to the rest of the news. The United States has rejected its transparently false Russia's evidence-free claim that Ukraine is preparing to use a dirty bomb on its own territory as part of an escalation of Vladimir Putin's war. Secretary of State Antony Blinken told his Ukrainian counterpart Dmytro Kuleba on Sunday that the world would see through any attempt by Russia to use this allegation as a pretext for escalation and vowed to continue supporting Kiev for as long as necessary. Earlier, Kuleba denounced Moscow's claims as absurd and dangerous, adding that Russians often accuse others of what they plan themselves. Also reacting, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called for united international response, stating that if Russia calls and says Ukraine is preparing something, it means Russia has already prepared all of this. According to the report, Russia's Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu spoke to British, French and Turkish counterparts and claimed in all three meetings that Ukraine may use a bomb as a conventional weapon containing radioactive material. Shoigu also spoke to Pentagon Chief Lloyd Austin, but Moscow did not mention the dirty bomb allegations in a statement summarizing that call. And that's world now at 4, but before we go, let's look at the headlines once again. Earlier on the headlines, we told you Nigeria set for declaration on global financing for media information literacy. We also told you Tanzania and firefighters battle blaze on Mount Kilimanjaro. Still on the headlines, Sunak wins race to become UK's new Prime Minister. And on sports brought to the fore, Middlesbrough named Carrick new boss. Remember to visit us on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube channel at Hills TV. I am Ainan Lubem. Thank you for watching.